Hey friends, welcome back for Table Talk. We pick up where we left off on our way with the Psalms of Ascent, which continue to serve us as signposts on the long obedience. Today, Psalm 127 meets us with a word on target as the psalmist gives us categories for good work. And to be sure, the word work comes with a bit of baggage these days. We're at a lot of different places when it comes to our respective spheres of work in a time of pandemic, unemployment, and disrupted rhythms. There's plenty to consider when it comes to work, and Psalm 127 brings it into focus. Unless the Lord builds the house, those who build it labor in vain. Unless the Lord watches over the city, the watchman stays awake in vain. It is in vain that you rise up early and go late to rest, eating the bread of anxious toil. I wonder if you notice the psalmist's insistence that before we do anything, God is at work. God builds the house. God watches over the city. God gives rest to his beloved. Children are a heritage from the Lord. Here is a vivid example of God working in the creation of new life. To use Eugene Peterson's marvelous phrase, every time a baby is born, the gospel is preached. Psalm 127 follows the narrative grain of God's work in all Scripture. God creates, God saves, and God blesses. To think well and wisely about work, we first look to God's work. Now, of course, we do not stand idly by. Psalm 127, in fact, calls for quivers with arrows filled and warriors ready for battle. Every gift requires a response, and there's a role for us to play. I love these lines from Dante's Divine Comedy. God in his grace was pleased to breathe in me the lofty work to which I gave my all. When it comes to good work in light of God's work, we are to be, as St. Peter says, good stewards of God's grace in its manifold forms. I love watching college students catch this very vision. Recently, I had the chance to write a recommendation letter for our own Kennedy Hawes, who you're used to seeing up on stage singing with the Pillar Ensemble, and even sometimes I had the great privilege of co-leading liturgy with Kennedy. She's back home in Washington now, but she's preparing for a year-long fellowship program in Charlottesville, Virginia, home of the University of Virginia, a college town that can only be rivaled by Holland, Michigan, in my very biased judgment. Kennedy, as a part of this program, will be trained to foster a God-centered view of knowledge, culture, work, and life. It's a remarkable program where she will be urged on to steward her gifts to the glory of God. Will you pray for Kennedy along with all the Hope and Western SEM students and graduates among us as they face uncharted waters when it comes to work and calling? In closing, I want to claim this for students like Kennedy and for all of us as well. It is in vain to rise up early and go late to rest, eating the bread of anxious toil. Rather, let your light shine before others, that they may see your good works and give glory to your Father in heaven.